Of the things that we observe organizations struggle with most, one of them is almost inevitably accountability. So you think back in Western culture, I think it's particularly prevalent. If you think back to the very first opportunity you had where accountability came into play. So you were a young child probably, and one of your parents was telling you, wait till somebody gets home. So that was a demonstration of accountability, and your first taste of it was negative. Now fast forward and you're a professional in the workplace and your boss says, hey, come by Friday afternoon for an accountability conversation. Your thinking automatically goes negative, and you begin packing your desk and you begin thinking about what you're going to say to defend yourself, and it becomes a defensive argument, when in fact what would be really, really wonderful is if somehow we could change the conversation. What if we could make this a conversation where the boss says, come by for an accountability conversation, and it's that thing you can't wait to go and attend at the end of the week. And we're a long way from getting there, trust me. But I'll tell you that of all the accountability books that we've read, and we've read lots and lots of them, the one that stands out to us is a book by Roger Connors and Tom Smith, Partners in Leadership. They wrote a series of books on accountability. Number one is the Oz Principle, all of them New York Times bestsellers. Oz Principle about individual accountability. How did that happen? I love the title. A book about interpersonal accountability. And then a book called Change the Culture, Change the Game, which is about organizational culture and a culture of accountability. So what they propose is a model. And I'll be the first to offer, I'm not trained in this, but I've read the book, we've studied it, and we've thought about it quite a bit. And their model involves an inner and an outer ring. And it's a diagram they call the accountability sequence. So it starts with this outer ring. And the outer ring is comprised of 4 phases. The first phase is called form. The second phase is called communicate. The third phase is called align. And the fourth phase is inspect. And what they would say is that the accountability truth, the absolute unequivocal truth, is that all of us in some way, for most circumstances, bear some responsibility for an expectation not being made. So when something doesn't happen the way you expected it to, their guidance in this model would be to insert the words I let into that phrase, how did that happen? How did I let that happen as a leader? So what did I not do? And that's where the outer circle comes into play. So did I not form the expectation completely? So imagine yourself in a production setting and someone says, let's hit our numbers today. What does that mean? Does that mean we hit them on the dot? Does that mean that we get started on the last article that we're to manufacture? Does that mean that we have to hit the last number we're supposed to manufacture and it's completely good? Where are quality defects allowed, etc.? Do we form the expectation completely? And there are a lot of models for this. Maybe the one that you are most familiar with is the model of SMART. We call these SMART objectives in that they are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. Now, I'll also tell you, if you look the mnemonic up, the A and the R ultimately have lots and lots of meanings. So if you're going to use SMART as your mechanism for forming an expectation, make sure that for your organization you've defined the mnemonic in a way that's appropriate. So SMART is a way to do it. Second is, did I communicate it? And so the next problem that we often have is, well, this didn't get done. What did you do? And your answer to that question is, well, I sent the email. You sent the email? Well, did they respond? No, but I sent the email. Here's news. This is a news flash. Email is not communication. By the way, texting isn't communication. Facebook is not communication. Instagram is not communication. Snapchat is not communication. Because the fact of the matter is, until you have confirmation that the message you sent was received and understood via some feedback loop, you have failed to communicate. So I sent the email is insufficient. that you sent the email, it was received, it was understood, there were clarifying questions so that you understood what the sender meant, and therefore you understand what the expectation is required in order for you to be off the hook in terms of accountability. So I as a leader have now formed and I've communicated, and this is the part where we old dogs screw it up. We didn't align it. We didn't tell you why it's important. So I need to hit this production number because we're at a boom in this specific demand cycle. Our customers are requiring a lot of us. And if we can get the demand right, if we can meet that demand, we're going to be able to in some ways erode the confidence that our customers have in competition. So if I can get there from here, that's the why. And by the way, if I can erode the confidence that our customers have in the competition, maybe when we have a downturn in our market, they'll come back to us and buy more from us. So that's a why. That's a pervasive why. How does it affect me? But oftentimes what we do as leaders is we'll say, because I told you so. Here's a news flash. I told you so is a really horrible why. So if you can't communicate why this needs to be done in the bigger picture, you're missing the boat. And that's the align. Here's the part we're really good at. Either we're really good at this or we really suck at it. So inspect. I've told you what to do. I've communicated. I've formed it correctly. I've communicated. I've told you why it's important that we get this done. And then I don't go and inspect it until it's due and I get a piece of crap that comes across my desk. Well, what's the reality is? Well, this isn't what I expected. Well, you never came and looked over my shoulder to see how this was going. Well, I didn't want you to come and look, right? Because you either trust me to do it or you don't trust me to do it. We as leaders have responsibility to follow up on our expectations and ensure that at some point between the time that it's being worked on and the time that it's due, that we have done some quality check to make sure that it's right. Now, what happens if you have formed it, communicated, aligned it, and inspected it completely and everything's wonderful? Yet, in your court, somehow the expectation still isn't met. Connors and Smith would say, then it falls prey to one of four other pieces that are in the inner circle. And in a riff on what they would say, it's either training, I don't know how to do what you asked me to do. It's motivation, I don't want to do what you asked me to do. It's an accountability problem in that I have a really horrible attitude about accountability, and no matter what you ask me to do, the dog is going to eat my homework. This is an issue that relates back to their first book, The Oz Principle, where they will say, you either live above or below the line. Below the line, and you can think of these people as I say it, below the line people are the people that the world happens to. They're always victims. There's always something wrong. The dog ate my homework. I want to wait and see what happens. I don't understand what you want. Just tell me what you want exactly. All the way down to complete victimhood. They just absolutely live in that space. Or they live above the line in that they are taking the information that's required, they see the problem, they understand how to fix it, and then they actually do it. See it, own it, solve it, do it is the above the line model that Connors and Smith propose in the Oz Principle. Well, in this case, it's an accountability problem, meaning that that human lives below the line. They're a victim. And then the last is a culture problem. And with culture, this issue largely is you, leader, have created a culture where no matter what I do and no matter how badly I do it, you ain't going to do anything about it anyway. So you've created the problem in the first place. You live in a culture of non-accountability. So this is the model we propose. I think it takes the boogeyman out of accountability conversations by first considering, how did I let that happen?